Using a 15mm deep socket, I'm going to go ahead and loosen this nut. Once we get the nut off, we'll go ahead and set that aside. Using a 13mm socket and swivel, we're going to go ahead and remove the 4 bolts holding the gas tank bracket. Using a 15mm wrench to remove the nut on the strap. Normally have a regular bolt here. For some reason we have double nutted with a stud before we pull this out completely. Now is the point we want to go ahead and get a gas tank stand underneath this, or a gas tank jack. With our gas tank jack underneath the tank supporting it, we'll go ahead and remove this the rest of the way. At this point here, we can go ahead and slowly lower the tank. Our bracket on the inside of the frame over here, we want to loosen up. I'm just going to work our straps out of the way. We're going to go ahead and lower our tank a little bit. The tank a little bit loose, we're going to go ahead and try and separate our fuel filler neck from the tank itself. Using a flathead screwdriver, we're going to go ahead and loosen the hose clamp holding the fuel filler tube to the filler neck. Go ahead and pop that clamp free. Go ahead and loosen this hose clamp here. Okay, we get it that time around. I'm going to position the fuel tank strap up and off to the side. Work our gas tank bracket up out of the way. Now as the tank is coming down, you want to periodically look up on the top, look for anything that might be catching or dragging. Check for any electrical connectors. So we reposition our tank to go ahead and lower this down. On the top of the fuel tank, there's going to be a small harness with a connector on the top. Just connect that. Let's go ahead and remove our ground bolts here. On the top of the fuel tank, there is a couple connectors here. I want to go ahead and try and loosen these. We have our fuel line connections right here, so we're going to go ahead and loosen these as well. It appears our fuel lines have been replaced before. I'm going to go ahead and have a catch can underneath your fuel line there, or some rags to catch any residual fuel that might be sitting in that line. I'm going to move the other line off the back side here. On the top, we're just going to use our pliers to work one of our vapor lines off. Remove our rag. We have our electrical connectors undone, vapor line, fuel lines, and another vent line here. Our tank should be completely free and ready to lower. On the top of our fuel tank, we have our fuel tank sending unit. We have a lock ring in here. Using our brass punch, we're going to rotate this around. There's little tabs on the edge here. Now your sending unit should be free. Okay, gently rock this up. You want to remember your position of your sending unit, that all of your fuel lines and vapor lines are facing the side of the tank with the filler neck. Go ahead and lift that unit out. Now with the unit ready to come out, you want to grab a catch can. You're going to have some residual fuel coming out of this. Go ahead and put that right into that can there. And we have our fuel pump here. I'm going to go ahead and work that sock off right here. Just pops right onto the bottom. The top section right here has an electrical connector. And lift up on that tab and work that connector off. And pop this unit out like so. Take our fuel line adapter, press that on, and use our clamp here. I'm just going to line this up and lock this into place. Use a pair of pliers. Make sure that's on there good and tight. Put our additional clamp on. Slide the hose up, and then pop the bottom of the fuel pump into the bottom portion of our sender. Now go ahead and tighten down this clamp. Let's go ahead and line this up with our fuel pump. Snap that on. Now we did pop out our fuel pump. We're going to put our little vibration pad on here. It fits in just like that. Now you want to take your sock, slide this over and press it onto your pump. I'm going to go ahead and get our sending an O-ring fed up and on. That's going to go onto the bottom of our unit here. Going to take your lock ring, Feed your harness up through it. Let's go ahead and set this in the tank. And once we have that lock ring started underneath our tabs, we can go ahead and start to spin that on. I want to go ahead and use a flathead screwdriver. Loosen this hose clamp. I'm going to swap this hose over. Just put this onto your new sending unit and we'll tighten down that clamp. And just snug that down. Let's go ahead and raise our tank and get it in a position to insert between the drive shaft and the frame. So we're going to do a couple preliminary things here. We have our bolt for our wire harness here, and there is a ground wire right here on the end. So we're going to put that bolt through. There's a ground wire coming off the bed itself here. We're going to put that bolt through that. And we're going to start getting that at least just threaded onto the chassis so that is started. And take this hose here, put on a new hose clamp, and get that ready there. Or start installing our fuel lines here. We have a rubber line right here we need to pop on. Slide that down and into place. And we have our electrical connector. We can go ahead and line this up. Connect that. Snug down that ground. Make sure it's pretty tight there. Make sure there's nothing that's going to bind when we raise up this tank. Everything looks like it's loose and adjustable at this point. Now up above the driver's side frame rail, you have your fuel filler neck and your vent tube here. Vent line has to go through this bracket. Pop that through. I'm going to go ahead and set our new hose clamp onto this here. Just set that into place. Our fuel filler neck from the tank is lining up with the neck itself, the fill tube. So we're going to go ahead and raise the tank a little bit more. Now we had fed our tank vent hose here through this bracket, and we're going to install our hose clamp. Just set that right there. Just double check and make sure that your fuel filler tube from the tank lines up with the filler neck attached to the body, and ours does. So we're going to go ahead and raise the tank up a little bit more and get that in position. We have our fuel tank strap here with our bracket. I'm going to work this up and around. And we're going to play with the height of the tank a little bit. just to get our mounting bracket up. So we're able to manipulate our bracket into place here. I'm going to start grabbing our bolts here and feeding them through the frame. And we'll start getting our bolts lined up and installed onto our bracket. Once we get all four of these bolts in, we're going to keep them loose for now, just so we have some adjustability of this bracket and the strap. So at this point, we're going to try and jack up the tank, work our filler neck on, and I'll take a little bit of up and down with that jack there to get this to line up where we need it. So now that we have our filler neck attached, we're going to go ahead and tighten up the hose clamp. Our original hose clamp was a little rusty. We decided to replace it with a new one. Once that's snug, gotta reach up top and we have our vent hose. We're going to reach up on the front unit here, grab that strap. With the other hand, feed the strap up and over the tank. Let's go ahead and grab the strap stud. We're going to push up on the strap itself and we're going to try and work this stud down and catch the mounting nut. Now that we have our nut on, let's go ahead and take up a few threads on this here. Go ahead and get our strap up and around here. And once we get this side in, we'll go ahead and install the other nut and bolt on the other side. And then we'll secure the straps down into place. Then we can remove the fuel tank jack. Let's go ahead and tighten up our strap bracket here. Go ahead and tighten up your bolt here. Now we're going to go ahead and install our bolt on this side here. And go ahead and tighten that down. Go ahead and lower our gas tank jack. Let's go ahead and install our filler neck vent tube here. Once we have that in place, we'll go ahead and install our hose clamp here. I'll snug that down.